Today, we will discuss the use of formative and interim assessments for student achievement and its value in education.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
According to a policy brief written in 2007 by Marianne Perry, Scott Marion, Brian Gong, and Judy Wurtzel, the standard-based reform movement has resulted in the widespread use of summative assessments designed to measure students' performance at specific points in time. While many have hoped that these end-of-the-year tests would provide instructionally useful information for educators, they do not. This is not because there is something wrong with these summative accountability tests, rather that they were not designed to meet instructional purposes. The concept of summative assessments determining the effectiveness of teachers has been a long-held measurement of effectiveness. The above-mentioned authors suggest other, more effective options to measure student achievement. There are three types of assessment that will promote student achievement according to Perry, Marion, Gong, and Wurtzel. As you can see from the figure, there is differentiation in the frequency of administration and an increase in the scope of the material covered in the assessments. In order to truly understand the three types of assessments for student achievement, let's start at the beginning with some definitions. As we explore the meanings of these assessments, be thinking about examples of each in your own practice and be ready to share. Although not the focus of our work today, it's important to understand the purpose of a true summative assessment. It is often the driving force behind most other curricular assessment decisions at its school and district level. It is typically given once, usually at the end of an extended unit of time. Its purpose is to evaluate performance, and it has a defined set of content standards. Let's move on to our next form of assessment. Read the three bullet points to yourself, and from these definitions, how are summative and interim assessments alike? How are they different? Turn and talk to your neighbor, and please be prepared to share. According to Perry et al., in order to determine if interim assessments are appropriate, 5 questions must be asked in order to determine the value and purpose of the interim assessment choice for the classroom, district, or school. The first of these questions is, what do we want to learn from the assessment? Who will use the information? What action steps will be taken as a result? What professional development or support structure is needed to ensure success? And ultimately, how will student learning improve from this assessment? These questions will create an approach to interim assessment that will drive practice. These questions, as a general rule, would also be useful to determine which type of assessment choice would be effective for you in the classroom as well. The need for assessment can drive our instructional practice, but it can also take away instructional time. The effect that interim assessment has on instructional hours can be detrimental. Tests don't teach, so be sure that these assessments matter, because just because they are implemented doesn't mean that achievement will occur. So why interim assessments? Well, thinking of the definitions and comparisons that we've drawn between summative and interim assessments, why are interim assessments important? Take a moment and talk to your table about this. Perry et al. Discusses the three purposes of interim assessment. 1, it's instructional, which will allow teachers and schools to adapt instruction and curriculum to meet student needs. 2, it's evaluative, which assists in making curricular decisions. And 3, it can be predictive, which can determine the likelihood of student success on end-of-the-year testing. A good example of an interim assessment would be our STEM Fair projects that were recently on display in the Student Center. How do these projects exemplify each of the purposes of interim assessment? Can you give examples of other interim assessments? Again, thinking about definitions, compare and contrast formative with interim assessments with your partner. Please be prepared to share. As you can see, formative assessment is ongoing. It is minute by minute. It provides immediate feedback to adjust teaching and learning inside the classroom, and it is connected to your daily learning goals. Now that we've looked at all three, give me an example of a summative assessment. How about an interim assessment? And a formative assessment from your own experience. Talk to your table about which type of assessment is most or least often used in your practice and why that might be. Also, discuss which type of assessment you've found has most positively impacted achievement in your own classroom, and please give examples. Now, discuss how you might shift the balance of assessment to make assessment more effective in your classroom or in your school. Formative assessments are utilized to gather evidence to inform instructional decisions on a daily basis inside the classroom, sometimes without students' knowledge that they are even being assessed. Any assessment's purpose is to benefit the students and help them improve learning. However, according to Stiggins, a more important outcome of effective formative assessment is that it enables students' confidence in themselves and motivates them to try, all while closing gaps for lower achievers. Remember at the end of The Wizard of Oz? The wizard gives each character the object of their quest, but in a rather unexpected way. So, what does effective formative assessment do for students? Well, Stiggins suggests that effective formative assessment first provides an understandable vision of the learning target. It gives descriptive feedback to assist in understanding how students can improve their quality of work. And it provides an opportunity for students to create self-assessments to build competence, which naturally breeds confidence. However, just like the Tin Man, Scarecrow, and Lion, students already possess these items, but the goal for any teacher is to help them realize it. According to Stiggins, the goal for students to create their own self-assessment and personal goals in order to take responsibility for their own success.
Do you ever meet Richard Roper?
Close your eyes and tap your heels together 3 times. And think to yourself, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home.
Effective formative, interim, and summative assessments for learning enable students' confidence in themselves and motivates them to try. This is the true purpose and value of any type of assessment. To help students become independent learners who have developed an intrinsic value about learning and self-assessment. Now, in your groups, please discuss what this new approach to assessment might look like in your world, because there is no place like home. Please appoint a reporter from your group to share your views with the larger group. Thank you for coming today, and I hope that this presentation will give you more insight into effective assessment.